Joining us today is Richard Wolff. He is Professor Emeritus of Economics at my alma mater, the University of Massachusetts, currently a visiting professor at the New School University in New York City. Professor, I wanted to talk to you about this idea of capitalism as as one single thing. You know, we hear a lot, for example, in the discussion about Obamacare, there were accusations that, oh, it's communist and we need a capitalist system. We hear discussions of capitalism is a better system or a worse system than whatever other system. So I think a good place to start is, how big can the variations be under what we still consider to be capitalism in terms of how it actually functions within society? Is there a broad range, or does capitalism just mean one thing?
I think, like all the systems, economic systems that we know of in human history, it comes in a variety of forms. Slavery came in a variety of forms. Feudalism came in a variety of forms. There's no reason to be surprised, dismayed by the fact that capitalism likewise displays a variety of forms. For example, we called 18th and 19th century Britain capitalist, but it was different from the United States today in countless ways. We even see that France or Holland or Sweden refer to themselves as capitalist today, and most people do, but they're quite different from the capitalism that exists, say, in Brazil or Nigeria or India or Canada. So here, if you look historically over time, and if you look from one country to another, capitalism takes countless forms. Let me take it one step further. Some of the things that distinguish one form from another are sometimes so upsetting to people that they need to make an argument, I'm never quite sure why, that what we have here is not another form of capitalism, but something fundamentally different. So let's take the example you began with. Obamacare, by giving the government a bigger role in the economy, represents socialism or communism. Well, that's a strange argument when you remember that, for example, all veterans in the United States are taken care of by a government medical program. The Veterans Hospital across our country provide government subsidized medical care, which the same people never dream of referring to as socialism or communism. Likewise, when you get to be over 65 years of age in the United States, you get Medicare, which is a government organized medical insurance program. We have a public post office. People in the Tennessee River Valley get their electricity from a public utility. Countless cities and towns across America have public power stations that are run by the government, which sells the electricity to the citizens of the community. And anyone who would seriously refer to all of that as socialism would begin to get very complicated in his or her analysis, because that's part of the United States and has been throughout our history. And I don't think most people think that way. One more example. In the Soviet Union, which is sort of the paradigm case of a socialism or a communism, here's some little known facts that can show you how complicated this is. Immediately after the 1917 revolution, the then leader of the Soviet Union, Lenin, went on the radio and guaranteed to all the peasants of Russia, and let's remember it was an agricultural country, 95% of people made their living from farming. He said to them, I'm going to distribute the land of Russia under the new socialist system, and it's going to be, here we go now, every person's private property, which it was for the next decade. In other words, the Soviet Revolution not only didn't abolish private property, it guaranteed it. And that is an important point to recognize, that the conventional notions of how you distinguish capitalism and socialism, or capitalism from other systems, is really not very good, doesn't work real well. What we really have across the modern world are different forms of capitalism, some with more public employment and public power, others with less, and variations across the board.
So it seems not only are when I guess what the audience could take from this is when you hear a conversation going on about an economy or a country or a society, and you hear these blanket statements about capitalism or socialism or whatever the case may be being kind of objectively good or bad, not only is it misleading, but it's kind of an empty conversation in that you know nothing about the reality of that system simply from knowing its one word name, do you?
Yes, it's a little bit like taking seriously a bitter argument between two people you know, as they hurl insults and antagonistic remarks to one another. I'll pick an example. A calls B a devil. Well, I mean, you could take seriously that this person being called the devil is some agent of Satan or some other imagery, or you could understand that when tempers are flaring and the heat is high in a conversation or a dispute, people use words as kinds of insults to attack each other, but they don't have really much analytical contact. A calling B a devil doesn't really mean we ought to spend a lot of time checking out whether B really has horns under his hair. You know, it mistakes the situation. And when people yell about the Soviet Union, you abolished private property, it's ignorance, basically, and it doesn't help us understand what's going on.
In the very limited time we have left, there's one very specific fear that's used quite a bit, kind of with the context of the American dream. Very often you hear fear mongering around any type of collectivist idea in the United States, which is the next thing you know, you won't even be able to work as hard as you want to make as much money as you want, right? In some way, if there is a move towards collectivism, you can't be an entrepreneur and grow a business. That's like a very specific fear that is used to kind of scare people away from anything collectivist. Is there any truth to the idea that, historically speaking, entrepreneurship goes away when you have anything but pure capitalism?
No, there's absolutely none. I mean, every capitalist system of which we have a record has gone through ups and downs in the ease with which new businesses can be formed, entrepreneurs can begin to set up a business. For example, here in the United States, we have had tremendous struggles about this question. That's why, for example, we have a government agency called the Small Business Administration that specifically helps, subsidizes, and tries to, quote unquote, create a level playing field so that small businesses have a chance. And indeed, small businesses have a very hard time in the United States today. Likewise, to take another example, the People's Republic of China. If you look at their 50-year history, it's basically a situation in which sometimes it was very easy, as it has been recently, for businesses to start in this quote-unquote communist society. And there were other times when it was very difficult. So I think you see here again that the ease or difficulty of starting a business is something that varies, crisscrossing all these systems, and using labels like communist or capitalist to suggest a pattern misunderstands the variety that has actually existed.
All right, Professor Richard Wolff, visiting professor at the New School University in New York City. Pleasure as always to have you on. Thanks so much for doing it.
Thank you, David. I look forward to talking to you again in the future.
Thank you.